Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. She came home at 1:47 a.m. Not the first time, not even the latest. But this time, I didn't pretend to be asleep. She walked in like she owned the place. Heels clicking, phone in hand, half smile on her face like she just stepped off a runway. She dropped her purse on the table, glanced at me on the couch, and smirked. "Be grateful I even came home," she said, like it was some kind of joke. I looked right at her and said, "Thanks, but why? You don't live here anymore." Her smirk vanished. That's when it shifted. The whole energy, the fake confidence, the games. I think she thought I'd still be waiting, that I'd ask where she'd been, that I'd flinch, that I'd fold, the way I used to when she disappeared for hours with no explanation and came back smelling like someone else's cologne and a glass of overpriced wine. But I didn't flinch this time, because something in me had snapped 2 nights earlier, around 3 a.m., while I sat in that same spot on the couch, wide awake, watching her location bounce between a bar, a hotel, and a parking lot. She didn't know I still had access to her location. She'd forgotten, or maybe didn't care. Either way, I'd watched it all play out in real time, phone in hand, while she texted me that her phone died and the girls decided to crash at Kelsey's. She didn't know I knew the truth, and I didn't plan to tell her. Not yet, because I wanted to see how far she'd go with the lie. But that night, the night she walked in and tossed her line like she was still holding the strings, that's when I realized the game was over. Not because she stopped playing, but because I stopped caring. She stood there for a moment, caught off guard by my tone. Then she scoffed, rolled her eyes, and walked upstairs like she didn't hear me. But she heard me. I know she did. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made her protein shake. Took a phone call on speaker about some yoga retreat she might do in Arizona. Wore that soft voice she always used when she was managing her image. Not with me, but with whoever she wanted to impress next. I didn't speak. I didn't ask. But something had shifted, not in her. In me. She used to come home late, and I'd wait up, worried. She'd toss out excuses, and I'd believe them, even when they made no sense. She'd smirk, and I'd fold. Not anymore. This time, I didn't ask her where she'd been. I started asking myself why I ever thought this was love. Looking back, I don't even know when it started. There wasn't one big argument. No betrayal I could point to and say, that's when she changed. It was slower than that. Subtle. Like a dimmer switch turning down the light, one notch at a time. I think it began around last fall. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Not dramatically, just less and less until, one day, I realized I hadn't heard her laugh at anything I said in months. The way she used to touch me changed too. Not the obvious stuff. I'm talking about the small things, like resting her hand on my leg while I drove, or brushing against me in the kitchen on purpose, just to connect. All of that disappeared, and I made excuses. Maybe she was tired. Maybe work was draining her. Maybe the kids were too much lately. I told myself this was just a season, that it would pass. It didn't. She started sleeping facing the wall. Started checking her phone in the bathroom with the door locked. Started dressing like she was going somewhere, even when she said she wasn't. I asked if she was okay. She'd nod and say she was just busy, or that I was overthinking things again. So I backed off. Tried harder. Cleaned more. Cooked dinner twice a week. Took the kids out on Saturdays so she could reset. Still, nothing changed. She stopped calling me by my name. Stopped texting during the day. Some nights, she didn't even come home until after midnight. Said she'd been catching up with friends or at a late class at the gym. A gym that closes at 10. At first, I believed her. Then I started noticing details that didn't add up. Lipstick she never wore before. Hair curled when she said she was just running errands. The scent of expensive cologne on her scarf, and not mine. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing, because if I believed it, I'd have to do something about it. And I wasn't ready. So I kept playing dumb. Kept pretending that maybe I was just being paranoid. That marriage was hard and messy, and maybe this was just normal. But the worst part? She could feel me slipping, and she didn't even try to pull me back. She just drifted further. Now I know the truth. The slow fading? It wasn't random. It wasn't exhaustion or stress or hormones. It was detachment. She was leaving long before she physically walked out that door. I just didn't want to see it. And by the time I did, she'd already built a whole other life outside of me. The first time I saw his name, it didn't register. It was buried in her Venmo history. $25. Description: coffee plus laughs, smiley face, with a smiley face. That was 2 months ago. I remember reading it and telling myself it was probably just a coworker or someone from that social circle she kept vaguely referencing. People from yoga, moms from the book club. She always kept it vague. By design, I see that now. But then I saw it again. Different app. Her shared calendar. There it was. Lunch with Jake. 1 p.m., Thursday. Same guy. The third time was harder to ignore. A restaurant charge on our joint account. $68 at a wine bar downtown. I hadn't been there with her in over a year. That same night, she said she was with Kelsey. I didn't ask questions. Just kept watching. The next week, she asked if she could switch off the credit card alerts because they were blowing up her phone. I said no. That's when I knew she knew I was noticing things. But she didn't stop. The name, Jake, started showing up more. Text previews on her lock screen when she left her phone charging in the kitchen. Once at midnight. Another time at 6:43 a.m. He started showing up in her vocabulary too. You wouldn't get it, Jake says. Or, funny, I was just talking to Jake about that. Jake said. Jake thinks. Jake recommended. I wasn't hearing my name anymore. Just his. She mentioned him casually, like I should have already known who he was. No explanation. No background. Just dropped into conversations like he belonged there. But I didn't ask. Not yet. Instead, I started digging. It wasn't hard. People leave digital trails, especially when they think you're too tired to notice. Jake was a real person. Divorced. No kids. Worked in marketing. Fit. Active. The kind of guy who posted gym selfies with hashtags about growth and mindset. They'd met at some networking event she went to 6 months back. He commented on nearly every one of her Instagram posts. Subtle stuff, nothing obvious. But the timing lined up too well. Posts she uploaded while telling me she was at her mom's house. She hadn't been at her mom's. I checked the maps, the charges, the timestamps. Jake wasn't a coworker. He was a replacement. Quiet. Strategic. Inserted slowly into every space I used to occupy. One dinner. One laugh at a time. And the part that hit hardest? She didn't even try to hide him anymore. Because in her mind, I wasn't competition. I was just background. But I wasn't going to stay in the background much longer. She stopped wearing her wedding ring 3 weeks before I said a word. No conversation. No explanation. Just one day, it wasn't there. I noticed it while we were both brushing our teeth, standing side by side in the mirror like strangers who used to be something. She caught me looking. Said she forgot it upstairs. She didn't forget. That same week, she started sleeping on the far edge of the bed, back turned, phone in hand, screen brightness all the way down. She said she was tired, but I knew better. I stopped asking, stopped reaching. And when she walked through the house, she didn't look at me anymore. Just through me. I used to think silence meant peace. That if we weren't fighting, at least we were surviving. But now I understand, silence isn't always calm. Sometimes it's the loudest kind of ending. She left early every morning. Makeup done. Outfit coordinated. Coffee in a travel mug I didn't recognize. She'd say things like, "Don't wait up," or "Plans might run late." I stopped responding. I just nodded and went back to what I was doing. The kids noticed. Our son asked why mom didn't eat dinner with us anymore. Our daughter asked why she was always on her phone, even during story time. I told them she was just busy with work. I hated myself for saying that. But what else could I say? I wasn't ready to destroy their version of her. Not yet. So I kept the smile. Kept the routines. Made breakfast, packed lunches, signed permission slips. Did everything I could to keep the house upright while the foundation rotted under us. And still, she kept drifting. She didn't touch me once in that entire month. No kiss goodbye. No hand on my back as she passed. No casual contact at all. I became a fixture in her periphery, like furniture. Useful. Static. Forgettable. But I wasn't broken. Not anymore. I had started writing everything down. Not for revenge, for clarity. For the days I doubted myself. For the nights I thought maybe I'd been the problem. I logged her absences. The names. The timestamps. The patterns. And I saved every one of her lies. Screenshots. Bank records. Calendar entries. I wasn't planning to blow it all up. I was planning to walk away clean. But I wasn't going to walk blind. She thought I was still under her thumb. Quiet. Obedient. Grateful she still came home. She had no idea how far gone I was. And every time she smiled at her phone and looked right past me, she made it easier. I didn't mean to hear it. She was on the phone in the backyard, pacing like she always did when she didn't want to be overheard. I was in the kitchen, putting away dishes. The screen door was cracked just enough to carry her voice through. She thought I wasn't listening. She always thought that. I don't even look at him the same, she said, laughing softly. It's like, I don't know. He's just there. Silence. Then, no, he hasn't said anything. He's too comfortable. Still thinks I'm coming home for him. More laughter. Then a pause. Honestly, I'm already out. I just haven't moved my stuff yet. That was the part that stuck. Not the tone. Not the words. Just the clarity of it. She wasn't undecided. She wasn't confused. She was done. And I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even angry. I stood there with a towel in my hand, staring at a glass I'd just dried, and realized I hadn't thought of her as my wife in weeks. Maybe months. The version of her I married didn't exist anymore. The woman outside on the phone. That was someone else. Someone strategic. Someone cold. Someone who calculated exits the way most people plan vacations. She came back inside 10 minutes later. Smiled. Said she might run to Target. Asked if I needed anything. I said no. She left. I stood there in that quiet kitchen and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not heartbreak. Not rage. Relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining the distance. The avoidance. The lies. It wasn't stress. It wasn't a phase. It was intentional. Clear. Decided. She'd left the marriage long before she said the words. Now I didn't need to say anything either. Because once you hear someone speak about you like that, like a placeholder, like a burden, like a thing they've outgrown, there's no coming back. I didn't follow her that day. Didn't track her phone. Didn't scroll through messages or refresh her location. I didn't need to. The picture was complete. What I did do was open a new browser tab. Typed in divorce attorneys near me. Booked 2 consultations. Quiet. Efficient. Unemotional. That night, I helped the kids with homework, made dinner, and sat on the porch with a beer while the sun dipped low behind the neighbor's fence. She came home after dark. Didn't say much. Kissed the kids goodnight. Went straight upstairs. I stayed outside. The air felt different now. Lighter. Because when someone tells you, directly or not, that they're already gone, you stop waiting at the door. You start building your own. I filed the paperwork on a Thursday. Quiet office. Neutral walls. A woman behind a desk walked me through the forms like it was just another transaction. I signed without hesitation. No shaking hands. No second thoughts. The papers weren't final. Not yet. But they were real. The first formal step away from pretending. I didn't tell her that day. I let the silence breathe. 2 days later, she found the envelope. I'd left it on the kitchen counter, sealed, addressed to her, with the attorney's business card clipped to the front. No dramatic letter. No emotional plea. Just facts. Process. Timelines. She opened it after dinner, while the kids were upstairs brushing their teeth. I watched from across the room as she read the first page. She didn't say anything. Not at first. She reread it. Slower. Her face didn't change. Not anger, not sadness. Just stillness. Then she walked to the sink, rinsed her glass, and stood there with her back to me for almost a full minute. When she finally turned around, she said, "So you're serious?" I nodded. She didn't argue. Didn't raise her voice. But the air in the room thickened. That was the moment she lost control. Not when I filed. When she realized she couldn't stop it. She tried to reframe it. Said we should talk before involving lawyers. Said it was a bit extreme. Asked if I was sure. I said I was. She didn't push. But everything changed after that. She started checking the mail obsessively. Left her laptop out less. Her phone, always face down. She'd come and go without saying where. But now she was tense about it. Like she didn't want me to ask, even though I never did. The next week, she mentioned Jake for the first time in weeks. Funny, she said. Jake asked if we were okay. I didn't respond. She looked at me for a beat too long, like she was hoping for a reaction. I gave her none. She started cooking again. Started asking if I wanted coffee in the mornings. One night, she even brought up couples counseling, said it might be worth a try. I told her, it's too late. She didn't hide the hit that landed. But still, no tears. No scene. Just little moves. Little shifts. Like someone trying to reverse a current they didn't realize had already pulled them too far. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel powerless. I felt clear. She wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't beg, who didn't chase, who didn't fold under guilt. And now she had to face something she never expected. The man she left behind wasn't waiting anymore. It started the week after she got the papers. She was suddenly everywhere. At drop-off, smiling too wide. At pickup, asking the kids about their day like she hadn't ignored them for months. She made pancakes on a Tuesday, packed bento-style lunches with cute notes, organized a movie night with popcorn in labeled bowls. At first, the kids loved it. They missed her, who wouldn't? They didn't care about timing or motives. They just saw their mom finally showing up again. But I saw the shift. It wasn't warmth. It was performance. Everything was dialed up just enough to look good on camera. The kind of mother she imagined herself to be when other people were watching. She signed up to chaperone a field trip, something she hadn't done in over a year. Started posting pictures on Instagram with captions like, "Nothing matters more than these two." And in those pictures, I was always cropped out, even when I was the one who took them. She started asking the kids questions she used to avoid. Wanted to know what they were reading, what their friends were like, who their favorite teacher was. But she didn't listen. She just waited for them to finish so she could say something rehearsed. One night, she made a big dinner, candles, cloth napkins, even dessert. Said she wanted to have family time. Told the kids they should be grateful for the memories we were making. They looked confused. Our daughter asked, "Why are we doing this now?" Her voice was soft, honest. And for the first time, I saw something shift in them, too. Because kids may not have all the language, but they have instinct. And they know when love is real, and when it's a strategy. She started using words like stability, routine, and what's best for the family. Not in conversations with me, with the kids. Planting seeds. Positioning herself. I kept my mouth shut. Because I knew what this was. She wasn't fighting for me. She wasn't even really fighting for them. She was fighting for the image. The upper hand. The ability to say, "Look what he's walking away from." But I wasn't walking away from that dinner table. I was walking away from the months she ignored them. The nights she came home at 2 a.m. The weekends she vanished. The lies. The deflection. The performance. And deep down, I think they felt it too. The warmth she tried to fake didn't stick. Because when you try to play catch up with your own children, after they've already learned to tuck themselves in, feed themselves, soothe themselves, you don't get to rewrite the past. You can show up with pancakes and movie nights and bedtime prayers. But they remember who was gone. I moved out on a Sunday. No yelling. No dramatic farewell. No suitcases thrown into the trunk while neighbors peeked through blinds. Just quiet. I packed my things while the house was still asleep. T-shirts. Socks. A few framed photos of the kids. My tools. My shaving kit. A notebook I kept in the nightstand drawer. The one where I wrote down every broken piece of the last 2 years. I didn't take everything. Only what was mine. I'd already signed the lease on a small place across town. 2 bedrooms. Nothing fancy. Neutral walls. Washer in the unit. Close enough to the kids' school that I could still do drop-offs and pickups when it was my week. I left the house key on the kitchen counter. She came downstairs halfway through the packing. Hair pulled back. Hoodie. No makeup. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching. But she didn't say anything. Not "don't go." Not "why now." Not even "good luck." Just silence. She knew. The night before, I told the kids. Sat them down on the couch and said the words carefully. Not too much. Not too little. Just enough to let them know that I wasn't leaving them. Just changing where I lived. Our daughter cried. Our son went quiet. I held them both until they stopped shaking. She wasn't in the room for that. She was on the phone. I finished packing by noon. The car was full. I stood in the living room for a second before I left. Just stood there. Not remembering. Just confirming. There was nothing left to save. She walked me out. Not because she wanted to, but because she didn't want to be the one who didn't. At the car, she finally spoke. "So that's it." I nodded. She didn't cry. Didn't apologize. Just looked off toward the driveway and said, "You didn't even fight." I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was backwards. Fight for what? For a version of her that disappeared months ago? For a marriage I was the only one still showing up to? I didn't respond. I got in the car. She stepped back. And just like that, the house was behind me. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I didn't need to. Because the goodbye didn't happen in that driveway. It happened in every quiet night she walked past me without a word. In every lie she told with a straight face. In every dinner she skipped. Every bedtime story she ignored. Every moment She chose elsewhere over here. She thought I left on Sunday. But really, I'd been gone for a long time. The silence hit different once it was mine. The first morning in the new place, I woke up before my alarm. No footsteps upstairs. No phone buzzing at 2 a.m. No weight in the air. Just stillness. I stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, looking out at nothing in particular. The place was empty, unfurnished. Half my clothes still in boxes. The fridge had a carton of eggs, some bottled water, and mustard I grabbed without thinking. And yet, I felt more at home than I had in a year. The kids adjusted fast. They liked the place. Said it smelled new. We picked out bed sheets together. Built a fort from boxes. Ate pizza on the floor and laughed when I burned the garlic bread. They didn't ask about her much. At least, not directly. They just started calling it Dad's house like it had always existed. I didn't reach out to her. I kept things clean, texts only about logistics. Pickup times. Doctor's appointments. School reminders. And she kept it surface, too. Until she didn't. It started a week after I moved out. A late-night text. Just one line. I missed the way you made coffee. I didn't answer. 2 days later. Do you remember that trip to Nashville? The diner with the jukebox? Then, I keep thinking about the way you used to hold my hand under the table at restaurants. Nostalgia, aimed like a weapon. But I knew the difference between remembering and regretting. One is love. The other is fear. She wasn't missing me. She was missing her grip on me. When someone loses their control over you, they start chasing the version of you they ignored. I didn't reply to the sentimental messages. Only to the practical ones. Clean, direct. No emotion. And that's when the tone changed again. Now she was confused. Said maybe we moved too fast. That she was reevaluating. That she didn't expect it to feel this final. I let the message sit unread for 3 days. Because I wasn't trying to punish her. I just didn't have anything left to give. This wasn't about pride. Or revenge. It was about peace. And recognizing what broke me wasn't her leaving. It was how long I stayed after she did. So when she sent one last message, "Are you really done?" I read it without flinching. And I didn't type back. Because there's nothing left to explain when someone watched you drown and only reached for you once you stopped moving. I wasn't angry. I was free. I came back one last time. Not for closure. Not to talk. Just to get the last box I left in the attic. An old bin of winter clothes and photo albums I hadn't had the energy to carry out the day I moved. She knew I was coming. I gave her the time. I wanted it to be quick. Clean. I pulled into the driveway like I had for over a decade. Only now, I didn't feel anything. No weight in my chest. No memory pulling me back. Just asphalt and a house that didn't belong to me anymore. She opened the door before I could knock. She was dressed up. Not overly, just enough that it was obvious. Hair done. A scent I hadn't smelled in a long time. Soft smile. Like she thought this might be the moment. It wasn't. I stepped inside. The house was quiet. Lights low. Furniture rearranged. My absence had already been folded into the space. She watched me go up the stairs. Didn't follow. The attic was dusty, same as always. I found the bin in the back corner. Labeled in my handwriting. Untouched. I carried it down slowly. Not because it was heavy. Because I knew it was the last time. She was standing by the door when I got back. "You don't want to talk?" I didn't answer. She took a step closer. I was wrong. About everything. Still, I said nothing. Her eyes searched for something familiar in my face. Something soft. Something that could be reopened. But I didn't offer it. Because she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the version of me that waited. That begged. That forgave. That man didn't live here anymore. I nodded once. Polite. Final. Then I turned and walked to the car. She stayed at the door. Didn't cry. Didn't stop me. She just watched. And I think that was harder for her than anything I could have said. Because silence leaves no door cracked open. No, maybe. No, not yet. Just a closed loop. I loaded the box into the trunk. Shut it gently. Got behind the wheel. She was still standing there when I backed out. Still hoping. But hope doesn't grow in empty soil. I didn't wave. Didn't glance up. I drove. Not fast. Not angry. Just forward. And that's how it ended. Not with a fight. Not with a scream. Not with a hug that lingered too long. Just a man who had already left, finally pulling away. And a woman at the doorway, realizing the only thing left to say was too late to matter. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.